Hi everyone and welcome back. Now today we're going to talk about the third foundation stone for good health in all humans, which is our bacteria. Now I know some of you are thinking, just how can bacteria be a foundation stone for good health? Especially when we're regularly told by advertisers and even healthcare that bacteria are dangerous germs to be eradicated. Okay, so let's find out. Remember, this is all sound science but made simple so that we can understand it and use it to our advantage, right? Now, did you know, as discovered to date, the first known life form as we know it on this planet was a species of single-cell bacteria? And where did they come from? For goodness sake, space? Creation? Beats me. It's hard to believe, but the science says over billions of years and for specific reasons, we humans and every other living creature on the planet has actually evolved from these bacteria, along with the many different bacteria that live amongst us today. And they all have the same common DNA. And many specific bacteria happily still live on and inside every living creature on the planet. The bulk of them live inside our large gut, but specialist bacteria have been found to live on and in all parts of our body, including our brain. Interestingly, that's why the same species of bacteria are present in virtually every living creature on the planet. Now, because they can multiply so fast by cell division, bacteria can quite quickly evolve into new forms. And that's interesting to know. Now, having said all that, let's just grit our teeth for a second and quickly talk about our poo. In a healthy human, around 75% of our poo is actually living bacteria. You see, when the system is working well, every hour they are rapidly dividing and multiplying, just like when we make yogurt. Now, the same thing is happening inside our large intestine, which is the place the bulk of good bacteria thrive. Now, when it's working well, the bacteria multiply so much they need to be passed out of our body ready for the next lot to be able to multiply. If they didn't, we might even actually explode. Millions of years ago, our ancient ancestors would have had a daily poo on the forest floor, and the bacteria would be spread around by rain and other creatures. Over time, the bacteria is picked up by other creatures or humans on their fingers or on what they ate, and they would go on to occupy and influence the new individuals. And that is the natural life cycle of our bacteria. So that's how it used to work for us humans and still does today in many third world countries. Fortunately for us and not the bacteria, no one told them about Mr. Thomas Crapper. Yes, a real person. He wasn't a German, as is commonly suggested, but British, and he invented the porcelain flushing toilet, also called the throne because we sit there like on a throne. But the natural life cycle of our bacteria suddenly stalled at the sewage ponds, which controlled the volume of gut bacteria that would have spread everywhere as a result of the large human population we have been developing. In one way, that's been good news for us humans, but in another way, it has meant that the specific good bacteria have not been able to repopulate amongst us. And consequently, many humans of all age groups can be missing them, which invites other well-documented health problems. Now, who would have thought that? And here's the deal. We provide for the bacteria a safe, warm, damp world with a good food supply, which we source for them by what we eat. And in return, they provide us with essential ingredients that allow us not only to exist, but to thrive and prosper. And they are also pivotal in the 2 billion chemical reactions per second happening inside every human body, and the billions of genetic combinations switching on and off every millisecond that allows us to function. That's right, our 19,000 human genes actually interact with the bacteria genes. and it's all necessary to make us humans function. Now, the balance of bacteria in and on our body is approximately 80% beneficial bacteria species and 20% of others, which totals about 60 to 100 trillion in numbers. Wow. Living on and inside each of us. I know, it's mind-boggling. Now, what do they eat? Well, they thrive on the same specific foods that we humans have been eating for millions of years. Green plants, plant fiber, seasonal fruit, fats, proteins. And notice, it's never modern sugary sweets, cakes, bread, pizza, fizzy drinks, and alcohol, as these foods actually kill off the beneficial bacteria and actually allow the unhealthy ones to multiply and prosper. Now, the lack of good bacteria and the influence of the bad ones directly contributes or is the direct cause of us humans having poor sleep, mental health issues, inflammatory and autoimmune diseases, just for starters. The type and balance of beneficial bacteria is also crucial. One example is the bacteria called, get this, Bacteria sanguinea. Now, the name is impressive but not important. But what they do is they convert chemicals from the natural foods, fiber, protein, and fats that we eat into serotonin, the happy hormone, the hormone that makes all humans happy and content. Now, many of us are familiar with this hormone. These bacteria live in our gut because that is where their food supply is. Now, put it another way, it turns out that 90% of the serotonin hormone receiving points in our body are also in our gut. And from there, signals are sent up the major nerve message transporting system, called the vagus nerve system, which we've briefly talked about, to our brain, which converts them to the signals of happy, happy. Now, without these gut bacteria, the process can fail. Until recently, it was considered that the serotonin was obviously produced in the brain because that's where our emotions are created, right? And therefore, the brain has been targeted with pharmaceutical medications. Well, as it turns out, it was completely wrong and only ever a theory. And it's also one of the reasons for the ongoing conflict between genuine science and the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, with that brief instruction, I hope you get the point that our beneficial gut bacteria are critical for the physical, mental, and emotional health of all humans. They are not just a well-advertised money-making germ to be eradicated. They are an integral part which allows us to be human. And that is why bacteria are classed as a foundation stone for human health. In fact, in all creatures. Okay, enough said. Catch you later. Bye-bye.